Sex offenders being seen as the monster on today's Modern Day Leper with Ahmad Blakemore. Hello, how are you? And welcome back to another edition of Modern Day Leper with Ahmad Blakemore. Sex offenders being seen as the monster. So I had a friend of mine, a minister at one of the local churches here, give me a call. He asked for my help. He had a young man at the church that they were attempting to try and help, but they said this young man was full of anger and resentment, and whatever they tried to do, he always came back at them with anger and hostility. And he asked if I would come down and see if I could create some rapport with this young man. So I go down to help him, and I asked him if he'd like to take a ride with me. So we get in the car, and the first thing he says is, "So they pawned me off on you, huh?" And I could see that he was really having some issues, some anger issues. His first question was, "So how are you going to help me?" And I said, "Only with your permission. I'm not here to force myself on you. I'm just trying to help. And if I'm unable to help, I won't waste your time or mine." After we got some food and started talking, I found out what the problem was. He, like me, and like many others, was a registered sex offender. And he had only been out of jail, prison, for about a week. And everywhere he went, he was being turned away. People was looking down on him, talking down to him, making him feel substandard. And so he had built up this resentment and animosity as a defense mechanism for what he was receiving from everyone else. I asked him, was there a specific thing that he would like to do that I could help him do? He told me the one thing he wanted to do was to see his daughter. He had called his girlfriend and asked if he could come and see his daughter. Now, the girlfriend told him, "You can come and see your daughter, but you have to hurry up and do it before my father gets back." Imagine that. So he decides that, yeah, man, I was going to try to catch a bus over there or walk, but now that I'm with you in a car, surely we could just go by there for a couple of seconds and I can look at my daughter just for a couple of seconds, get a hug, get out of there before before the father shows up. And so I talked to the daughter, his girlfriend, on the phone to make sure that surely we could come by there and it was okay. She said it was okay to come by. So we decide, we'll get in the car, I'll take you by here. He can see his daughter through the screen door. The daughter is about 4 years old. And before he could say something to his daughter, her father steps out, the grandfather, and says, "Get off this property or I'll blow your brains out." So that was good enough for me. So we decide to leave. But the daughter is now saying, "Daddy, let him see her. Please let him see her just for a minute." And the father and the daughter are protesting as to whether or not he should be allowed to see the daughter. The daughter comes out on the porch, and this young man comes back from the car, stands in the middle of the yard, and puts his hands out for the daughter to come to him. She looks up at her grandfather, and she could see that the grandfather was not happy. She looks back at her dad reaching for her. He falls down on his knees in the yard and says, "Please, can I just see her just for a second?" The girl says, "Yes, go ahead." And the young girl, his daughter, the 4-year-old, comes off the porch and runs to her father, and he hugs her. And this man, he's about 24 years old, starts bawling like a child because he loves his daughter. But because he has sex offender status, he's not allowed to be at the grandparents' house. And so while he's hugging his daughter, she asks him a question. "Daddy, are you a monster?" Grandmama said, "You a monster. Are you a monster?" And I swear I was overly emotional. I lost it myself. He was crying. The girl was crying. I was crying. His girlfriend was crying. And the father was totally livid that we were even there. Being seen as a monster. It is one of the most terrible feelings in the world to be seen as a monster. What is a monster? The definition of monster: a non-human creature so ugly, so monstrous as to frighten people. Any creature grotesquely deviating from the normal shape, behavior, or character. When we got back in the car, he was so emotional. He said, "Hey man, am I a monster?" He told me about his case. His case was a rape case, 1st degree. He came home, his woman, in the bed with another man. After a long fight with the guy and an argument with his then girlfriend, who's arguing with him naked, he makes the statement, "Well, if you had sex with him, why are you acting like you don't want to have sex with me?" So they start arguing, get into a fight. And when the police comes, he's on top of her, wrestling her, and catches a 1st degree rape charge. He does 6 years in prison, comes home, and his first girlfriend has given birth to the child 4 to 6 years old. And now she thinks he's a monster. He asked me the question, "Am I a monster?" And I had to think about it myself. And after we left there, he and I together, we agreed that yes, based on the behavior, based on the things we were doing, based on the way we have treated people, based on the way we've treated our victims, based on the way that we have felt about our victims in the past and the things we've done, we fit the description of a monster. Non-human creatures so ugly or monstrous as to frighten people. People see registered sex offenders as fearful. They fear us because of the things that we've done in our past. Any creature grotesquely deviating from the normal shape, behavior, or character. My past behaviors were not that of a man. His past behaviors were not that of a man. And so when we decide, or when we read the definition of the word monster, it fits us. I went to an organization to speak. We were talking about taking deals from the court. We were talking about the video that I had done. Sex offenders don't take that deal. And she asked me why I was trying to help sex offenders stay out of prison when we're all just a bunch of monsters. Is that a true statement? Is that what we are? Monsters? Because society sees us that way. What is that based on? Based on our past. And so we have to ask ourselves, as registered men and women, are we living to better ourselves? Are we trying to become the best version of ourselves? Are we trying to look at our victims responsibly and say, hey, let us take responsibility for the things we've done? And if we're taking responsibility for the things we've done, and we're trying to make amends, and we're trying to do things better, if we're not in denial, saying what we did not do, how we were wronged, when we know for a fact that we were guilty as charged, are we monsters? Are you a monster? Am I a monster? I've looked long, hard, and deep on this subject. I live my life in a way that I will not be seen as a monster, acting as a monster, doing monstrous things. The monster is a mindset. And we have to take responsibility to grow, to be the best version of ourselves. This young man that I told you about, this was some years ago. He is now in the ministry. He lives with his girlfriend, who is his wife now, and their daughter. Because she is his legal child, biologically, he has the right to raise his child, even as a sex offender. He got to show his daughter in real time by repenting his life, changing his life, taking responsibility for the things that he had done wrong, that he indeed was not a monster. And if you ask her today, is your dad a monster? She will tell you definitely no, he is not. He is my dad. You don't have to be a registered sex offender to be considered a monster. Anyone with any negative activity toward other people, treating their victims negatively, not taking responsibility for themselves, for their families, can be considered a monster. I'm Ahmad Blakemore. I am the modern day leper. I appreciate you listening. Please like, subscribe, share the videos, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.